Hey crafters, happy fall. And of course with as season changes, you know I'm going to be doing a little bit of thrift shopping and hopefully some thrift flipping to find some new pieces for my wardrobe this season. Many of you guys know I love thrift shopping and finding things secondhand, maybe even for free. And sometimes those items are great as they are, but sometimes they need a little DIY love, maybe just some alteration, maybe a color change, or maybe they just need to be completely refashioned into something new to take those existing garments and turn them into something that are fun and fitting into my wardrobe for that time of year. In today's project, I'll show you a couple pieces that I have been saving for this time of year. I think they're going to be perfect for doing a little DIY magic on right now. I'm hoping to turn them into a really cute outfit for fall, and we may even take that outfit on a little pumpkin picking adventure. Let me show you the pieces we're working with today. I'll talk you through what I'm thinking of for their thrift flip transformation. And then of course, I'll show you the outfit and how everything worked out in the end. Roll up your crafty sleeves, maybe get yourself a warm fall beverage, and let's get to thrift flipping. Aww, pumpkin t-shirt. You can bet I snapped this one up at the thrift store. I love finding seasonal t-shirts, and if I can get them secondhand, win-win. This one is super cute. I love that bright, kind of watercolory, painty pumpkin on the front and has some gold detailing. It's from a brand called State of Mind, so very interesting. This one, though, isn't quite perfect for me because the t-shirt is kind of a cream colored or a light beige. Unfortunately, that color is terrible on me, and I think it's going to be kind of tough to pull off, even with that bright pumpkin on the front. So, you know what we got to do with things that aren't quite the right color, right? Yeah, we gotta try dyeing this thing. The t-shirt itself is about 60% cotton, 40% polyester. So that will still work. It's even better if it's all natural fiber. That makes it easier to dye with like normal dyes that I normally use. But I think with that ratio, I think it'll work out just fine. I'm going to be going through my RIT dye collection and I'm thinking of what color I want to do this. Like, I want to work with the pumpkin but not completely overshadow it. But I also kind of want the shirt to be red. I know that would, and that kind of, take away the contrast of the pumpkin. I don't know, I'm seeing like a cherry red or kind of like a cherry pink for the background. That's choice number one. Choice number two is do kind of a chocolate brown, but not too dark. I'm afraid that might be too dark though. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to think about this and I'll show you what I decide. Okay, guys, cherry red has one out. This one of my favorites. And I hope it'll look really, really cute with the pumpkin. Okay, let's head on over to the kitchen lab and let's get to dyeing. Well, here we are in the kitchen laboratory. We're covering up surfaces wherever possible, including the floor. Then, of course, I've got a bunch of cleaning supplies out and some gloves, my spoon I use for tie-dye. I'm going to be following package directions here. On our RIT dye, going to fill up my sink with hot water, add some salt, which is recommended for our cotton fiber content, add the dye, and then dump in the dampened garments, stir them around quite a bit to try to get the dye even. I'll be dyeing a couple pieces today, so you might see those in the sink. Once I get the color I like, I can take them out, fill up the sink again with my little color fixative and some hot water. Let that soak for about 20 minutes, and then I can wash and dry the garments and show you what they look like. Woohoo! Alright, so let's start filling up the sink. We'll dissolve a little salt in there and get the dye happening. Here we go. Wow, guys. Our shirt was only in the dye for about 7 minutes. Look at that, it slurped up the dye. It is a vibrant cherry red, so I am taking it out of the dye. I think that's as much as we need. I do have a couple pieces that I'm also doing with this t-shirt, and so I used the whole bottle of cherry red. Filled my sink up all the way. I'm really glad I did use the full bottle. If you use less dye, it skews a nice kind of magenta pink, but I was going for red today, and I think we've got it. Okay, when my other pieces are done, I'm going to fill up that side of the sink with clean water and some dye fixative. That'll just kind of help lock in the color. Then once that's sat for about 20 minutes, I can take these out. And I'll wash them and I'll show you what they look like when I'm done. Well, cherry red for the win. Absolutely. I love how this shirt turns out. This turned out even better than I thought it would. I do love the color of the t-shirt, but I'm also really loving how it goes with the colors of the pumpkin. And of course, with the gold detailing, it still pops, still shows up, even though we darkened that background fabric. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm going to be wearing this a lot this fall. I hope it might also coordinate with another project we have going on for today, another thrift flip. So let's head on over and take a look at that project and see what this might coordinate with. Well, I got pretty excited when I found these cute pieces of fallish fabric secondhand. I actually found these at my local Goodwill bins or Goodwill outlet. I had never been to one of those before, and it was quite an adventure. So watch for that whole video coming up. I will kind of backtrack in that video a little bit and show you this fabric and a couple other pieces that I found on that trip. But today, we're going to surge ahead. We've got to use some of this fabric because look how cute and fallish these prints are. They're both cotton. This one has like little leaves and like, I swear these are tiny acorns. I think these berries are cranberries. I am convinced they're a cranberry print. And both of these pieces are so adorable and so fallish. Only problem is I only have about 2 yards of this guy and maybe a little more than 2 yards of this one. So I'm thinking I will try to make some really basic, really simple fall skirts. Just stretchy waist, gathered skirt, probably midi length, a little longer than knee length maybe. We'll see. I'm keeping it simple today because I don't have a lot of fabric and I just want to make some skirts. I think I'm probably going to start with this guy because I think this will be the one for today's project, but I definitely want to use both of these soon because I want skirts that look like these. I think that'd be really cute. Okay, let's switch over to design phase and look at the sketchy sketch to see what I'm talking about. Well, we're going to need to be cutting out some rectangles of fabric. I'm going to need 2 rectangles for the skirt and then 2 long and skinny rectangles for the waistband. I'm not sure how big this piece for the skirt is going to be. That's kind of going to be determined by how much fabric I end up having. That'll determine how wide I can make this, which will determine the fullness of the skirt. And of course, it'll determine how long the skirt is. I probably won't be able to get more than maybe below the knee or like slight maxi length, just with the fabric I've got. My waistband piece, I'm going to need to make it wide enough so that I can fold it in half and make a tube for my elastic. I'm also going to be needing to make it long enough so that with both those pieces sewn together, I can put that big circle of waistband fabric around the widest part of my hips and butt. Of course, I'll need to sew the side seams of my waistband pieces together and sew in the side seams of our skirt together as well. Hey, well then we could do some gathering stitches and gather in the top of our skirt. We'll need to fold our waistband circle in half to make like a big circular tube for the elastic. Sorry, that is not to scale. But then I can sew my skirt to my waistband. Fantastic. Then I'm going to need to put some elastic into my waistband. I'll probably be using like 1 inch or 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches. we'll see. Elastic into that waistband. It's going to scrunch in that waistband. It's going to be a little bulky, a little scrunchy, but that's okay. And then, of course, that'll help our skirt be scrunchy and gathery too. That's pretty darn basic, but it's totally going to work. I've done it before. Easy project and a lot of fun. Which fabric am I going to choose? That's a very good question. I love them both. I should probably do this with both, but I think I'm going to start with the brown just because I love it so much. And also there is a little bit more fabric to this piece. So let's get our stuff together and let us skirt the issue. Okay, guys, I ironed a whole bunch of fabric and then I cut stuff out and I pinned stuff. This giant rectangle you're looking at, it's actually 2 pieces, pinned along both sides. There's my waistband, also 2 pieces, pinned along both sides. Of course, we're pinning right sides together. This looks pretty basic, but I think we're on the right track. Let me show you that diagram and the dimensions I ended up using, and then we can get to sewing. And we're back to the sketchy sketch. This is basically what you just saw on my cutting board. Got my big old skirt piece, got a waistband piece cut out, and here's kind of the dimensions I ended up with. The skirt, I ended up with about 37 inches in length and about 70 inches wide. Then for my waistband, I needed to do a little math with this guy. I am planning to use 1.25" elastic, so I needed my waistband to be at least big enough to cover that. So 1.25" plus 1.25", getting me 2.5 inches. Then I do need at least 1 inch for seam allowance, so then I was up to about 3.5 inches. Then I just rounded up to 4 inches to give me plenty of seam allowance and also some space for that elastic to move around a little bit. Then for this size, I need, once these 2 pieces are sewn together, I need them to make a circle that's big enough to fit over the widest part of me. So for me, that's kind of hip/butt. So I measured around my hip/butt, figured out how big that is, and then divided that in half. And then I added about 1 inch to that for seam allowance. And so each one of my waistband pieces is about half my hips measurement plus 1 inch. And hopefully that'll give me enough space to put that on or pull that on over myself, because I'm not adding a zipper or buttons or anything. So that waistband needs to stretch big enough to pull it on. Okay, next steps. Once we sew this up, of course, right now it's just pinned. Now we got to do some gathering stitches for our waistband, or for our skirt, and then we can talk waistband. Let's get started. Let's get sewing. Well, we're back, you guys. You noticed that we sewed up our skirt, we sewed up our waistband, we did some zigzag stitching on the raw edges, we did some gathering stitches along the top of the skirt so we could gather that fabric in to meet the waistband, which of course we did a little ironing on, ironed under one of those edges, and I think it is time to pin and sew the waistband to the skirt. Let's take a look at that up close. Okay, my plan, and some of you are going to agree or disagree with me, that is okay. My plan is I'm going to pin and stitch the waistband to the inside of the skirt first, and then I'm going to flip the other side around, that nicely finished folded over edge, to the outside, pin that on, and then I'll top stitch that into place. That's going to allow me to avoid some slip stitching. That may or may not be the best way to do that, but that's what I'm thinking. And here's what that's going to look like. Okay, so I'm, of course, looking at the inside of our skirt. I'm going to pin my waistband on here. Of course, maybe matching up those side seams and all the good things. I've got basically the right side of my waistband to the inside of the skirt. I'm going to be pinning this, using my gathering stitches to make it all work, all line up and stuff. Then once that's pinned and sewn, I'm going to flip this to the other side. Have that nice ironed under edge. This is really hard to see, sorry. Then I'll pin that in place and top stitch over that. You could, of course, sew this to the front and then fold it in to the inside and slip stitch this down. That would be really nice as well. But I'm kind of cheating a little bit, doing it the quick way. Of course, once I sew this tube in place, I gotta leave a little gap because I want to put elastic into this. So let's start by pinning and sewing it to the inside. Then we'll pin it to the outside and leave that gap. Okay, this is gonna take a little while, so let's switch to time lapse and get started. All right, guys, we've got ourselves a waistband, and the only thing we got to do next is add the elastic. You can tell I got my safety pins out. I'll be using the old safety pin technique to get the elastic in there. And of course, once I get the elastic in, I'll need to try the skirt on, adjust the elastic until I like it, Then I can sew the elastic closed and I can restitch that little gap in the waistband that I left. Let's switch over to time lapse and let's do that. And with that, you guys, we have ourselves a skirt. You saw me finish that waistband, but normally I would need to hem our skirt. However, I got a little tricky and I used the finished selvage edge of the fabric for the bottom of the skirt. I just tried the skirt on and it is like a perfect maxi length on me. So I think for now, I think I'm just going to leave the edge of the fabric as the selvage. If when I wear the skirt, it's just a little too long or it doesn't hang as nicely as I would like, I'll just do a simple rolled hem. But the theme of this skirt has been kind of the most basic, simplest, easiest, quickest method possible. And I think I'm going to leave it. Sometimes basic is really all you need, right? I will say I am a little bit sad I didn't put some pockets into those side seams. I would have needed to sacrifice either length or volume of the skirt to make that happen, and of course time. So I didn't add that in today, but you know, if I had the time and the fabric, I would probably prefer to add those in because you never know when you need some pockets. However, I think I am going to love wearing this skirt with all my fall t-shirts and tops and such. Speaking of t-shirts, I think I'm going to use that newly dyed pumpkin shirt that we just made. So, yay! Hey, if you guys get behind thrift flipping or making your own seasonal wear, give this video a thumbs up, will ya? And consider subscribing if you haven't already to Partners in Craft. We love this time of year. We're always up to something. So, hope you come along with us for more crafting adventures. I'm going to put an outfit together, and I think we should go pumpkin picking. Let's go.